자, 이제 또 해외 연사를 무대로 모실 시간입니다. 세라피니 프로덕션스 GK의 세바스티아노 세라피니 CEO 앤 파운더님 이 자리에 함께 해주셨고요. 오늘 강연의 주제는 The Journey of an Indie Studio Developing Horror Games입니다. 자, 여러분 기대되는 발표입니다. 큰 박수와 함께 무대로 모시겠습니다. Please come up to the stage. Thank you. Let us welcome him.
Thank you very much. Hello, my name is Sebastiano, and I've been living in Japan for the past 15 years, and I've been making games for the past 3 years. In all my time in Japan, I've been working in the entertainment industry, making songs, and I've been a composer for a long time. But I also was in a TV show back in the day. But my dream has always been making games. I've been a gamer my whole life. And when I finally got the chance to be able to make something like that, I was very, very excited. And I didn't even know it was something that it could be possible to achieve, because things has changed a lot when it comes to game development. It used to be much harder, but now thanks to Unity and Unreal Engine, there's way more opportunity for more and more developers to create their own game. When I first started, a lot of people encouraged me to start my own company. But to be honest, all the people that didn't believe in me and they told me that I wouldn't be able to make my own game are the ones that give me the strongest motivation to decide to start creating games. And after 3 years, finally I'm here. We released our first 2 games this year. There are 3 more games coming this year, and we are developing other 3 games. And we are not only launching them on Steam, they're also coming on console as well. And to me, that I've been playing PlayStation since I was probably 10, it's something very exciting to be part of that universe. But let's go on. So here is who we are, and this is our path. And what I would like to say is like how to start to make video games, because I think a lot of people start building games, but they don't know what is the first process that you need to go through to make something. I think every studio has their own way to start their own game. For us, it's really important to start with an idea, and you must have something that you want to say. You must have a fire, and that's something that you want to communicate. And I think games can really help you achieve that. However, after you have the game, because I never had any experience programming before or any experience in game design, I had to find good collaborator to work with us, and it was not easy. As I was mentioning before, there are a lot of tools that made it much more accessible to create games, but still, you need to find the good people to work with. Because in my first day as an indie developer, I didn't know what an asset was, and I was looking for my first collaborator on Fiverr. I don't know if you are familiar with this app, but it was very amateur. But we were able to find good people. But later on, how we develop and how the studio big is something very surreal to even think about it, that we were doing something like that. One very important thing when it comes to game development is also learn how to delegate. And for us, because as I say, I didn't have experience as programming, it was very important for us to find good generalist developer that are generalists in a lot of different fields, because I work in a 3D AAA studio as well, and the way things work there are very, very different. Like, people tend to be very specific and they have a very specific role. Also, every time there is a long process to get approval, but when it comes to game development, you need to be extremely quick at making decision and make sure that your indie studio can survive for the long run until you make a hit, hopefully one day. And yes, so we decided to make horror game. That was a big decision for us. To me, the reason why we choose horror game is because there is a way to communicate things that is very hard to communicate with other genre. To me, a horror game doesn't need to only make you feel scared or make you feel fear. It needs to make you feel a lot of emotion and touch you very deeply. So sometimes it makes you feel angry, sometimes it makes you feel sad, and it is very important. And I think for other genre, you need to make a longer game, and you need a lot of resources and budget to communicate this type of emotion. But when it comes to horror, you can do that faster, I guess. Also because people are very immersed into the game and they are very focusing on what they are experiencing at the moment. So they are in a more receptive kind of status when they are playing horror game. And I think as of fear connects to a lot of other type of emotion, and to me is very important. One thing that I've experienced when it comes to making games is also criticize about the story, or a lot of player are not all of the player are gonna play your whole game and understand everything, reading all the clue and understand what you try to communicate. But that's okay. It's okay that you make a game that is not for everybody. We don't over explain everything. We have people who really love our concept and understand what we are trying to convey. There are people who don't, but that's okay. I mean, you are walking your own path and you are creating your own story, so it's totally fine. One thing that we didn't think about it when we started making horror game, but we realized once we started making, is like there is a lot of opportunity, especially if you have a small studio. You can really find an audience because there's a big number of streamers who only plays horror games, and there are an even bigger number of people who are watching them streaming horror games. So even if you don't have a big marketing behind, a marketing team, you can really communicate a lot and reach a lot of audience. So if you don't have a lot of budget, I think making horror game, if you have a good idea, is a good genre. We didn't think about it, but when we started, we realized that there was a very big benefit. Yeah, so as I was saying, horror game is more accessible, and you can craft a very well put together story in a short amount of time. And yeah, there's a resource that other genres sometimes do not have. Yeah. So a lot of people also are asking me where to start to make a horror game. I think there is not a single process. There's a lot of different way. For us, I always try to make something that is authentic, either to me or the people around me. So, for example, half of my company we manage influencers. So a lot of them, although they earn a lot of money every month and they have a lot of streamer watching their videos, so you think they will be happy, but a lot of them suffer from anxiety, they are worried what they put out. So we thought, why not making a game about this kind of fears? And that's when the idea of Unfollow came through. And so yeah, we want to tell a story that is close to us and people can relate to. So I think that was very important to me when I started this journey and we went into horror. There is different type of horror you can make. You can focus on a ghost horror, or like try to come up with an idea for a monster and then come up with an idea. For us, we follow a different structure. We, as I say, we start from a personal trauma and go more in the psychological path. So it's a little bit different for us. One of the game that I brought, that is the latest game we released it last month, and is called Don't Watch. Don't Watch, I don't know, do you know what a hikikomori is? Is those people that live locked in the house. The protagonist is Shinji, and we thought, since this protagonist of our story is very scared of other people's gaze and how people perceive him, we thought it would be a cool idea to connect it with Japanese folklore creature called Hyakume, which is literally 100 eyes. And we thought that that could symbolize pretty well his trauma and how we could portray the fears that he's facing throughout this game. Yeah, so for example, in this game, there is this feature that the player can hide his eyes to avoid the monster, but later on, in order to fight against the monster, you have to feed him straight on, but he needs to go throughout its whole journey to understand what this means. One thing that I've been asked to is like, is it better to stay indie or go triple A? Not that we have the choice at the moment, but there is more investor coming in, and a lot of people are interested into joining because we are making. I think as an indie studio, developing 9 games in the first 3 years is quite of a big achievement. Um, However, to me, it's like it really depends on what you want to do. For us, at the moment, we really like what we are creating. We like the freedom that it comes to create indie games. However, since now there is the possibility to work remotely, and the cost can be much more lower, I think if what you can achieve by your own and hire the people that you like and have people around you that you trust, it is very important because to me, it's not about what a person can do because everybody can learn and they can improve. To me, is really do they have the passion and they're really passionate about what we want to do. That's why I try to surround my team with people that I really trust and I know we share the same vision. Yeah, one advice that I can give you is like for us when we first started making our game, we I just wanted to make a game for Halloween. We started our game in summer. I wanted to put out our first game on Halloween. That was 2 years ago. That game is still in development. Is coming out in 6 months. But during our journey, that single game turned out into a series of games. The two of them already came out, which is from the Broken Lore saga. And to me, it was very important to create a lot of smaller game because each time you release a game, you can learn something. Like there's a lot of things that you can learn from Steam or even PlayStation that we weren't aware, and we wouldn't know how to do it if we will just put one game. Also, if you spend a lot of studio, I think before Brandon from Gamer Sky said that 90% of studio do not manage to do their second game, and probably one of the reason is because they focus all their resources into making their first game, and if that game doesn't go well, and a lot of game studio their first game is very difficult even if you make a good game to make it profitable because you need a lot of knowledge about market, you need a lot of streamer, and once you release one game that you collect some fans that will follow you hopefully for your next game, but when it's your first game you don't have that. So it is very important for me to just plan a lot of smaller game before you release your bigger game. So it's okay to be ambitious with one title, but have something to back it up. So even if that game doesn't do well, your studio can survive, and later on you can do better and better games or games that are better at being marked. Yeah. So as I was saying, like the strategy is really to plan for the long run and keep sustainability. Every game teaches you something, and you can always bounce back. One other thing I've been asked even before this is how important it is to work with a publisher. For us, we never thought about publisher in the first year. However, after we released our first demo and we gained in a couple of weeks, maybe a week, 10,000 wish list, it really helped bring people in. However, if it's your first game, your first deal, and a lot of publisher might reach out to you with not so flattering offers, and you can really make your life difficult because when you work by yourself, you have no one that you need to be responsible with and you can be as free as possible. Also, your game will grow because if your game got a lot of attention at first, it will most likely get more attention later. So the deal you can get maybe 1 year after you announce your game, maybe with 50,000 wish list, will be much different from the deal you will get with 10,000, especially when it's your first game. For us, bureaucracy in Japan was very difficult, so we didn't sign with the first publisher, and we were very lucky because if we would have signed with the first publisher, we wouldn't have the deal we have right now for Unfollow. Yeah, so pretty much those are my final thoughts. Just keep making new games, keep learning, make small titles so you are sure that your indie studio can survive, and yeah, share stories that are important to you, and keep it creative because at the end of the day, games must be fun to play, and I think that's very important. So this is my presentation. If you have any question regarding horror game or making games in Japan, you can ask me.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for the presentation. 네, 여러분 박수 한번 부탁드리겠습니다. 네, 말씀 주신 것처럼 질문 저희가 받도록 할 텐데요. If you have any question, please let us know. We'll now open up the floor. 혹시 질문 있으실까요? 네, 중앙으로 모시겠습니다.
Hi.
Hi.
I personally hate horror games because I get scared really easily. I can't sleep. So I was wondering, I feel fear for horror games,
Mm-hmm.
but I understand that indie games are very good at making horror games, especially more than AAA
Is
game studios, I imagine sometimes. But my question is about, as you mentioned before, the 5 stages of grief, making players feel emotions.
mm-hmm.
But I have some friends who are still, teenagers who are in their early 20s,
Mm-hmm.
but they tell me sometimes that they don't feel scared at all, or they
Mm-hmm.
just play games for fun.
Mm-hmm.
So it leads me to believe that they feel less emotions compared to people in our in our late 20s or in our 30s.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, do you personally feel that the upcoming customer base, the upcoming players,
Mm-hmm.
will feel less and less scared when
Mm.
playing horror games that come out from now on?
Because there's yes, thank you for the question. Yes, right now there is more and more horror game coming out, especially probably because it's one of the genre that is easier to make. I think a lot of people they are focusing on making horror games like jump scare or horror story, so they don't really connect with people. I think one of the things that a lot of horror games are lacking, they tend to look all the same, they tend to scare you, but you're not connected to the game, as you were saying. And if you are not connected to the game, you can be scared, because if you're not connected, you don't feel what the protagonist is experiencing. So in my opinion, it is very important to tell a story that not everybody's gonna maybe connect, because it's impossible to make a game, especially when you go to psychological path, that everybody's connecting to, because it's very personal. But I think to me it's like, if you tell a story that resonate with what is happening right now, like for example, you can even talk about AI. There's this a story that we would like to explore, and not just something that you already seen. I think people will feel more connected. However, one thing that is very important is like there needs the little step to get the attention of player, because I think a lot of players they play very casually. They don't even put their little effort. Like they don't put their earphones. They don't focus on the story. So not everybody can enjoy maybe, but I think people who will, they will definitely be very happy. Especially when we talk about hikikomori and people locked down. We got a lot of people who were experienced that. They say, "Oh, thank you. This game helped me," or "I felt really the struggle that Shinji was going through." So I think. I think there is still opportunity to connect. You just need to tell a very good story. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your question and thank you for sharing your thought.
Thank you.
And if we can have a few more questions.
Sure.
네, 질문 저희 조금 더 받을 시간이 있습니다. 혹시 질문 있으실까요? If we don't, we will conclude your presentation right here. Thank you very much. 여러분 다시 한번 큰 박수 부탁드리겠습니다. 네, 고맙습니다. 세바스티아노 세라피니님께서 전해주신 내용 잘 들었습니다.